Alrighty, boys and girls, so now we are on to Chapter 4, Section 4, and the name of this section is Add and Subtract Unlike Fractions. Now, last lesson we were doing adding and subtracting like fractions, and like fractions were fractions that had the same denominator. So unlike fractions are fractions with different denominators. So in order to add and subtract unlike fractions, there's two ways we can do this. There's an easy way and not as easy way. We'll start out with a not as easy way. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to rewrite the fractions so that they have common denominators. Once we do that, then we can add and subtract just like in the last lesson. So let's start out with 1/2 plus 1/4. Now, when we look at this, the denominators, we've got 2, we've got 4, they're unlike. So we say, okay, the bigger denominator is 4. Can the little one go into it? Yes, it can. It goes in there twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to use 4 as a common denominator. So I've got 4 here, and right here, I know this is going to be 4. Well, since this already is 4, numerator is going to stay the same. Since this is not 4, I say, okay, how do I go from 2 to 4? Well, I had to multiply by 2. If I multiply by 2 on bottom, I have to do it on top. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. And now I can add it together. Add right across the top. 2 plus 1 is 3. Denominator stays the same. That's a pretty simple, example for doing these. Let's try something a little bit more complex. Let's say we had -3/4 plus 5/9. Okay, so we look at this and we've got denominator 4, denominator 9. We look at the biggest one and we say, okay, does 4 go into that? Nope, not at all. So we say, all right, look at the biggest one again. Well, 9 times 2 is 18. Does 4 go into 18? Nope. What's 9 times 3? 27. Does 4 go into 27? Nope, it does not. So what's 9 times 4? It's 36. Does 4 go into 36? Yes, it does. So we're going to use 36 as our common denominator. And let's see, to go from 9 to 36, well, I have to multiply by 4. And if I multiply by 4 on bottom, I do it also on top. 5 times 4 is 20. There's my addition sign. This is still going to be negative. How do I go from 4 to 36? Well, I have to multiply by 9 to do that. If I multiply by 9 there, I multiply by 9 here. 3 times 9, 27. So now I've got -27 over 36 plus 20 over 36. Well, I know my answer is going to be over 36. And -27 plus 20. If you can do it in your head, great. If you can't, let's review how to do this in the calculator again. Well, the first number I have is -27. So I type in 27 and then make it negative. Check on my calculator. Yep, that's what I've typed in. Plus 20 equals, I get -7. So there's my answer right there, -7 over 36. This is the proper way to add fractions with different denominators. But there's another way that you can do this if you want. Let's take a look. Let's use the same exact example we were working on before. 1/2 plus 1/4. Well, 1/2, what's that as a decimal? 1 divided by 2. That's 0.5. 1/4, what's that as a decimal? 1 divided by 4. That's 0.25. Now if I add those two together, I end up with 0.75, or 75 hundredths. So if I write this back as a fraction, since it's 75 hundredths, I'm going to write 75 hundredths. And now I reduce this fraction, and think of these like money, pennies or quarters. 75 cents is 3/4, $1 is 4/4. So I can divide top and bottom by 25. 25 goes into here 3 times. 25 goes into here 4 times. So 3/4, and that's what we got over here as well. Now let's take a look at it with this example. So this example, we had negative 3/4 plus 5/9. Now watch this. 3/4 is 0.75. So since that's negative, it's going to be negative 0.75 plus, and now we have 5 divided by 9. Ooh, look at that. We're going to have bar notation. Now here's the thing, boys and girls. This is a repeating decimal. It goes on forever. Now, because it goes on forever, we can't really add these two together. We can't add them together easily. You'd have to do some rounding, and the fact is if you did some rounding, you would not get the same exact answer. You get something very, very close, but you won't get the same. So, what's the lesson here? This shortcut method, if you like it, even though you have these extra steps at the end, you can do as long as you end up with terminating decimals. But if you end up with bar notation, can't do it. Have to use this method. So either way, you definitely have to know this method right here. Let's try another example, just one more. Let's say we have negative 7/10 plus, let's do 3/15. Okay, so I look at the bigger denominator, which is 15. Does 10 go into that evenly? Nope. So 15 times 2 is going to be 30. Well, 10, does that go into 30 evenly? Yeah, it goes in there 3 times. So 30 is going to be my lowest common denominator. So I'm going to write over 30, put my plus there, and I know this fraction's negative. Let's figure out what the numerators are. Well, 10 goes into 30 how many times? 3. So that means this 10 had to be multiplied by 3 to get that. If I multiply by 3 there, I multiply by 3 here. And 7 times 3 is 21. 15 times what gave us this 30? It was 2. And if I multiply by 2 here, I have to multiply by 2 here. 3 times 2 is 6. So now, I've got my problem just like the last sections. I know my denominator is going to be 30. So I've got negative 21 plus 6. Well, I know my answer is going to be negative because I have more negatives. And the difference between 21 and 6 is going to be 15. And if I wanted to do that with my calculator instead, this is how I would. I'd type in, since I have negative 21, first I hit 21, got to make it negative. Double check to make sure it's what the calculator shows, it's good. Plus 6 equals negative 15. Now, we're still not done here. We can simplify this. Since the fraction's negative here, it's going to be negative here. And I can divide both of these by 15. Let's pretend you didn't know that, and you saw a 5 and a 0, and you said, okay, I can divide by 5. Well, 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 30 6 times. Well, I can still reduce that. That's a half. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 6 twice. So that is adding and subtracting unlike fractions. That's about as difficult as it gets. The only exception would be if you had 3 fractions to do. But even then, just do it one step at a time. I can give you a quick example of three fractions though. Let's say we had 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 2/3. Okay, so with this one right here, I look at the bigger denominator, which would be 3. Move this up. And 2 doesn't go into 3 without a remainder. So I multiply this by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Does 2 go into that? Yes, it does. So I can rewrite these with 6's. Well, 2 times what equals 6? 2 times 3. And if I multiply by 3 there, I have to multiply by 3 here. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times what is 6? 2. And if I multiply by 2 there, I multiply by 2 here. 1 times 2 is 2. And 3 times what is 6? 2. If I multiply by 2 down there, I multiply by 2 up here. 2 times 2 is 4. So now I just add this all up. My denominator is 6. On top, 3 plus 2 is 5. Plus 4 is 9. So now I've got an improper fraction. No big deal. I divide this second or third grade style. Top number in the box. Denominator's outside. 6 goes into 9 one time. That means my whole number is going to be 1. 1 times 6 is 6, and 9 minus 6 is 3. So it's 1 remainder 3. That remainder is my new numerator, and my denominator stays the same. I can reduce this, because 3 over 6, that's a half. So this is going to be 1 and 1/2. And that's it, boys and girls.